All right, today would be a good day for, as I look out, 75 or 80% of our lines out here to fall out because we've got Kevin Grimm with Texan EMS here. The ambulance is right outside. So he's going to talk to you a little bit about Texan EMS. So this is Kevin Grimm.
Thank you. I wasn't sure exactly what Marty wanted me to go over on everything, so it's going to be pretty short. And if you have any questions, but we started Texan EMS. This November will be 6 years that we started. It truly has been an honor to service Polk County residents, especially when it's a town that you're raised in. So it really has been an honor. Like I said, it's been 6 years this November. We offer both emergency and non-emergency transports to the citizens of Polk County. We are certified through the state of Texas. We're allowed to go anywhere in the state of Texas that we want. You know, some of the questions out there that we get a lot on ambulances is, you know, who's on an ambulance and where they can go at what time. Usually through the state, you can choose to either be BLS up to MICU, which we're all three. We're the BLS with MICU capability. So essentially, there's a paramedic, at least one paramedic on every single ambulance for Texas EMS.
Can you tell us what those mean?
Okay, yeah, there you go. See, I knew it was going to be basic life support, BLS. That's the entry level EMT that you see, and then EMT paramedics can carry a mobile intensive care unit. Things on it such as cardiac and you know, the IVs and stuff and everything in between. So it does take 2 certified personnel to operate an ambulance in the state of Texas, both of which can be only basics or both paramedics. But typically you find usually 1 basic and 1 paramedic on each truck. Like we carry ours, it's always at least 1 paramedic. Basics can do anything from, you know, trauma, dressings, and splinting, things like that, whereas paramedics can actually issue cardiac drugs, start IVs. A lot of the stuff, you know, that you see on TV is more, you know, they can intubate. Things such as that is what the paramedics are able to do. We are here locally owned. Myself and Greg Miller, we're 50-50 partners. We have a local medical director. Dr. Jerry Wood is our medical director for Texan EMS. We're again extremely pleased to have a local doctor willing to support us. We average probably just here in Polk County, we do about 400 calls a month, and that's again everything from severe chest pains, you know, heart attacks, all the way to transports to and from nursing homes, trips back from the hospital. We average about 100 transfers out of the hospital a month going to Houston or Lufkin to higher level of cares. So we do put a lot of miles, you know, on the units. We are a Medicare Part B service. So anybody that does have Medicare, we are a Part B. Out there, a lot of times, you know, Medicare people choose not to have Part B. So, and sometimes they're not clear that your ambulance rides of any sort are not covered if you don't have a Medicare Part B. So that sometimes catches some of our patients off guard for the Medicare patients. It's about all the information I had, I think. Was there any questions or? Yeah, sorry. I run 4 24-hour trucks in Livingston, and then I do have a station in Huntsville as well, and I run 2 24-hour trucks in Huntsville. So we operate 6 trucks. Of course, we own 8 because you never know that you always need a good backup. So yeah, we run 6 24-hour trucks.
So what happens? You get a call, you show up, and the person doesn't have any insurance. What happens then?
We still transport. I mean, when we're licensed through the state of Texas, there are ambulance services out there that are transport designated, and there are services out there that are 911 designated. We are a 911 provider through the state of Texas, and when you are a 911 provider, if you receive an emergency call, you have to transport. So there is no there's no requirements of insurance or not. Now, when you get into the non-emergency, somebody that wants to go to a doctor's appointment or something like that, that you can verify insurance. That's another, another generalized question that people have is Medicare does not cover doctor's appointments to go by ambulance in any way, shape, or form. And sometimes that's an unclear thing, so. Yes, sir.
Would you explain to us what it entails to be able to get a license to do what you're doing and the costs and schooling and all the things that you've had to do to get this business going? Because I don't think anybody knows here what it takes to do that, and I am sure that it's a lot more than what any normal human being would
Sure.
put up with.
Sure, and it gets harder and harder by the day. I always tell people, if the requirements today were imposed on me 6 years ago when we started, myself probably wouldn't have been able to do it. But through the license of the ambulance, of course, it's through the Department of Transportation is who's ultimately in charge, but we go through DSHS, the health department. Probably about 400 pages of application that's filled out. There's a lot of requirements through bonds and stuff. They require you to have so much money that you have accessible, in order to provide the bonds for the state if there was any mishaps. But there's obviously you have to have the trucks and the equipment on it, which can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, which they require you to have. But it's mostly applications and inspections and re-inspections. Both people have to be certified. You have to be able to have a medical director. And then the certifications, typically it takes, to be a paramedic, you can probably do it if you did it every day. It's probably about a year to a year and a half of schooling. There are a lot of programs out there that only do it at nighttime or what have you. And then a basic, if you did it every day, there's a lot of schools that you can probably become a basic, the lower level, probably 3 to 4 months. But on the license part of the ambulance, it's just tons and tons of applications, and everything's backdated, just like any other medical service that I know of, doctors and x-ray people. They expect you to operate in full capacity under the license for so long before they'll agree to pay you. So there's, and that's what kind of got us. We heard that it would be 3 months to operate without you being paid, which turned into 7 months. So you're out there, myself and Greg, the way we got started with little money, it was just me and him that operated on the ambulance 24/7 for 7 months, and not receiving any money, and locally, gratefully to some of the local banks that were able to help us out along that. And then, of course, on the 7 months, they do back pay you, but it is pretty strenuous as far as the applications are concerned. And like I said, had it been today, I wouldn't have been able to do it. It's just more and more red tape to go through.
How many dollars is an application?
There's not necessarily, being a state service like that, the application is just minimal, just like typical applications. I mean, $100 for just the processing fee, but again, the money comes with the requirements that you're required to have to even fill out. It's going to be in the equipment, but the application itself is $100, just for processing. But again, the equipment that you have to have with cardiac monitors, drugs, all the stuff that you see, on an ambulance is where it gets expensive. Yes, sir.
Why do they make it so hard?
Well, the big people with a lot of money don't want the small people to operate. That's, and of course you got, there's huge companies out there that are nationwide that have tons of lobbyists and everything getting things the way that they want it to keep the small guy out. So, yes, sir.
When a 911 call comes in, how do you get it? I know there's 3 or 4 other ones in town.
Yes, sir.
Do you go in order, or is your term up, or what?
Actually, the 911, we're a 911 provider, which is the highest license that the state offers. In each county, the commissioners court are the ones that are tasked with who to provide 911 service to the county. The other service, I believe, is Allegiance / AmeriCare. They have a 911 contract with the county. So if you were to dial 911, you would go to the sheriff's office, and then they would send it over to AmeriCare.
And how do you get it?
We don't get it through 911. Our 400 calls come from people that are calling us directly.
Directly.
So, and yes, I mean, 911 is a great number to always memorize and to have, and it's easy. But there's no billing issues with insurance or anybody else that do choose to call us directly. It's not something that it's 100% legal for us to respond to any type of call of somebody that calls us, directly.
Right.
But
Do you leave cards on the table?
I do have cards and pins, and I put some out. I have more in the truck or actually over here. So if those run out, and again, it's phone company helped us out with that too. Our number is 327-9113. So we always tell people, to throw that 3 on there. But so yes, and again, we are able to do both non-emergency and emergency. We're allowed to transport anywhere. Depending on what's wrong with a patient, if a patient's, every one of their doctors are in Kingwood and something's going on with them, if they're stable enough, we'll transport them straight to Kingwood, so there's no requirements. I know it gets tossed around a lot, like there's a requirement that an ambulance has to take you to a certain facility or not, which there's not a requirement for that. Of course, our goal is to get you to definitive care, the people that can take care of you best for what you have going on. So,
You mentioned the paperwork very minimal price-wise. What's the cost of your education?
Probably, to be a paramedic, through the school, most schools are $3,000 to $4,000 to become a paramedic. Again, give or take, usually the ones that are a little bit quicker are more expensive, and if you do a night course, it's kind of drawn out. But it's around $3,000 to $4,000 to be a paramedic, and probably $1,000 to $2,000 to be an entry-level EMT. Typically, most courses are basic to paramedics, so you would have to have attained to be a basic first. So you got that $1,500, then another $3,000 to $4,000 to be a paramedic. So essentially, it could be about $5,000 that most paramedics spent in schooling, and then a little bit of more cost of that with books. So.
Are you fully staffed, or are you always searching for new?
Yeah, at this time, we're fully staffed, but we definitely. EMS in general is. Honestly, it's not, the way it's set up now is not a career to retire from. It's gotten better with electric stretchers and things like that, but backs, it is a very injury prone. It's extremely unhealthy there's a lot of anxiety in older medics and heart problems because it's not healthy to be woken up from your sleep cycle every night. Typically most EMSs sleep while on duty when they can. But you go to sleep at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the night, and then you're up at 11. You go back to sleep, and you're up again at 1. Over time, so the older they get, it's definitely a young man's career. Typically, as they get into the mid to late 40s, even, and there's some that are older than that, but it diminishes greatly at that age. So a lot of people have, it's a stepping stone to a lot of other careers. There are a lot of them that go on to nursing, and I know a handful that have went on to be doctors from EMS. But it definitely is a revolving, we're constantly looking for people. And in this area, it's just tough. There's not a lot to choose from as far as how many people become certified, which is what we try to change. Everybody wants to graduate high school and be a cop. But we're trying to change that mentality of treating ourselves as professionals. So people that graduate high school, they want to be paramedics. And that's what we have to handle on our side. We're not really considered one of the professions like police and firefighters are, but we take responsibility in that. We have to treat ourselves as professionals first. So, yes, sir.
What impact does the methamphetamine problem in Polk County have on you?
It's pretty high, and it's not just, we have tons of calls with people on meth and a lot of other types of drugs, but a lot of a lot of the drug problem is not people that are currently on the drug when we go to them. It's their lack of care to the rest of their life that causes, again, the cardiac problems or, just unsanitary and infections. I mean, usually we see it on the back half. Not as many that we get a call and say, hey, this guy's high on meth right now, which we do get those. But I would think on the kind of the back side of their life crumbles, and that's where we come in. It's on the cardiac problems and the unsanitary lifestyles that a lot of that life brings. Yes, sir.
How's your response time running?
That definitely varies. I mean, obviously we've got a quite large county, but typically, in that Livingston area, it's usually 7 to 10 minutes on average, and that's what we tell people. It's great to, you can have 50 ambulances in this county, and there's going to come a time when every single ambulance is being utilized. Unfortunately, sometimes there's not an ambulance in the county readily available. We do have agreements with surrounding counties, but when you pick up the phone and you call surrounding counties, you do have agreements with them, but they're a little hesitant to send you their ambulance if they're not fully staffed for the county that day. But if we have an ambulance, I mean, no longer than it takes to get in that ambulance and to get to wherever you are in the county at a reasonable speed is the response time, and it can average 7 to 10 minutes, but unfortunately there are people that have to wait longer.
I like the color of your truck out there.
Thank you. We designed that in about 5 minutes, I think. I think that's enough questions, I think. Is that what I get?
You hold an ambulance back, say you've got all of a sudden a bunch of transfers come through. You've got 4 or 5 ambulances going here, there, and everywhere. Do you hold one back for an emergency, a local emergency?
Sometimes, I mean, probably the 911 provider for the county typically does that. But yes, I mean, a 911 provider that has to answer the 911 line sometimes does that. But, the way we do it, because honestly, sometimes it could be a heart attack in the hospital that needs to get to Houston, that they're leaving for. And yes, there could be a car wreck while they leave, but it's a tough situation because, I mean, the guy that needs to get to the cath lab is in just as critical condition as if a car wreck happens. So for us, we just, unfortunately, that's the only way you can do it, is just to do it each time. Now, definitely, you would not take a non-emergency call for your last truck, but sometimes that last call, you only got one truck. It might be the car wreck, and then another car wreck happens. But yes, and I know the other service does. They typically try to keep one service ambulance in the county, so they're not all out of town. But yes, there is a plan for it. It just doesn't work smoothly all the time.
What does a vehicle like that fully decked out cost?
On the low side, you're probably looking, I mean, you can get them anywhere, I mean, fully stocked. The low side, probably the low hundreds. And of course, you can buy an ambulance, I mean, you can buy an ambulance for, just the ambulance itself for $500,000, so. But I would say most ambulances that you see going up and down the road, probably, in the hundred and something thousand, so usually about 100,000. All right, thank you all very much.